Hi everyone, Mrs. Alseri here. Today I'm going to show you how to draw a flower in bloom using oil pastels or crayons. Some supplies that you're going to need today include a white piece of paper, cut into a square if you prefer, a pencil, an assortment of oil pastels in different colors or crayons, and something circular to trace. I have this lid of a candle. After your circle is done, you're going to start drawing petals around it. So you need to decide what kind of flower you want. Does it have spiky petals or curvy petals? Spiky might make it look more like a sunflower. So you can start with skinny ovals with a point. Leave a little bit of space in between each of them and kind of turn your paper as you go. Trying to keep them the same width and length is going to be tricky, so just take your time. And if you need to go back and adjust any of them, that's what erasers are good for. So if you need to pause for a minute and see if you feel like they're okay before you keep moving on. That one's a little bit small. I had to kind of squeeze it in there, but that's okay. And then you should end up right back next to where you started. There. So I'm going with sort of like a sunflower with pointy petals. The next thing is you can then go in between and make some smaller petals that make your flower look fuller. So I'm only drawing the pointy part on these, and I'm making a little bit shorter than the others. Again, trying to make them a similar size the best you can, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm turning my paper as I go for this kind of project. That helps my petals stay a similar size. I'm going to turn my work in front of me the way I like it. Good. The next step is to start adding color. We're moving right along. Using these pentel oil pastels, you can get them at Michael's, and I think Joann Fabrics might sell them. If you can't find the pentel ones, Crayola makes oil pastels, Reeves, there's a few different brands. So I'm gonna choose some bright yellowy orange colors. So this is just like a regular orange, maybe this yellow orange or golden color. And then I'm gonna set aside a brown, whichever brown you think will go. And these are gonna be kind of for the center of the flower. And now I have to decide what color I want my petals to be. I think I'm gonna go with a sunflower for this one. So what's nice about these colors is they're all pretty warm. So you can mix them together, or you can choose to use some and layer other colors over it. There's a lot of different things you can do with these colors that I have here. So I'm gonna set the rest of the pastels aside because I'm going to end up choosing my background. So I got a little bit of pastel on there, that's okay. So I'm going to start in the middle of my flower, and I have the orange pastel here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow with the outline of the center as I color in. And I'm using a lot of pressure because I want nice bright colors. And as I turn my pastel, I'm kind of going with the outside of that circle shape. That's gonna help make your flower look more realistic. It will give you some interesting lines so that it's not the same pattern of coloring over and over again. I'm sort of turning my pastel as I change directions. And I'm gonna do that until I fill in the entire area. If you're using a crayon, you're definitely gonna wanna push hard for this. You can layer crayons the same way with oil pastels. They just take a little bit more pressure to blend, and you can't use your finger with crayons. The nice thing about pastel is once you lay your color down, if you wanna put another color on top, say I wanna add some of this sepia color or brown, it's like a warm brown color, I can color right on top of the orange, and some of that orange will still peek behind, and I get some really nice mixing happening. Okay, so I finished coloring in the center. I'm going to come back and add some details, maybe seeds or dots later on, but for now I'm going to move on and color in each petal individually. It sounds like a lot, but you kind of get a rhythm going and it goes pretty quick. So I'm going to go over here and grab my yellowish colors. I have this yellow, orange, and just yellow. I think I'm going to start with the lighter. That way I can add the yellow orange in as a little extra to the petals. So it doesn't matter where you start, you're just gonna kind of go around in a circle. So lefties, beware if you're left-handed like me. I've already made a mess down here. The good thing is pastel's easy to cover up, so if you make a mistake or smudge it with your hand, you can fix it. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start with whatever petal I choose, and I'm gonna just draw a little bit of an outline with the color that I picked for my petals, just because it helps give me a boundary for where I wanna color in. And then I'm gonna color in the same direction, back and forth and back and forth, up and down and up and down. So if you're holding it like this, it would be up and down. If you're holding it more sideways, it might be left to right. You just wanna be consistent, which means whatever direction you pick, you kind of wanna do it for each petal. So I start at either the base of the petal or the tip, and then I color in from there. Still using quite a bit of pressure, but it doesn't have to be that hard, because if you decide you wanna bring in another color, then you can push harder with that later. So outline, color in the tip or the base, and then fill it in. The one goal I have with my coloring is I don't want to leave a lot of white in between. If I skip around and go too fast, like let's say I just go really fast in here and I don't push very hard, then you have all that white space. It's really distracting. So you really want to take your time with the coloring. Just get into it, maybe listen to some music. Each little petal is special on its own. And if you feel like this is too challenging and you don't have the time, then maybe you can come back and decide that you don't want all the petals behind. So think about that before you start adding color. If you think you have way too many petals and you're not feeling up to coloring them in, maybe erase some of those other ones that you snuck in behind. Try to keep it simpler if you're not in the mood for coloring a bunch. All right, we are moving right along. So for my background, I decided to pick this sky blue color. Blue tends to run out pretty quick in a packet of oil pastels because it's a very popular color. So I'm gonna hold it on its side and I'm gonna push pretty light and just kind of go around my petals for the background. I'm gonna go in between each petal and around, and not being sloppy, trying to take my time because it's looking really good, and make sure that I get in all those little white areas. So if you need to turn your pastel a little bit to get in between those shapes, don't skimp out on that part. Okay, so this is the finished drawing. I went back and I outlined the circle with the dark brown oil pastel to kind of bring that together. And I finished the background. I'm just gonna keep it light blue. And the last thing is, if you want to take a brown or an orange or a black pastel and outline your petals, you can, but I don't think it really needs it. I think because we colored each petal one at a time, that they stand out enough on their own. So thank you for joining me. Happy art making, and I look forward to seeing your flowers posted online.